Hello indie game fans, squeezing in the hidden gems of November in this video, but it was a pretty decent month overall, where I have a number of games in my favourite genres that are worth a look. Let's begin with Unsouled, a pixel art action-adventure title with Souls-like combat, impressing even while in early access and is a title to watch. It has one of the most extensive combat in a top-down title, with an array of combos, counter-attacks, and even environmental interactions like slamming enemies into walls as part of this. In addition, there is an RPG progression system as well, where you can boost various skills by obtaining and equipping various souls. Having a decent chunk of content in the current early access version, and a full release is planned for Q2 next year. For as much as I love pixel art, my jaw also drops on the occasional hand-drawn title, especially when the backgrounds and environments are as tremendously detailed as they are in Slice of Sea. You play as Seaweed, a sea creature stuck in the world and city of Dust, having to find a way back home to the sea by interacting with a variety of puzzles, levers, mechanisms, and so on. Depending on your level of familiarity with point-and-click adventure games, your mileage may vary with this title, since there are some very classic, if archaic systems, where you can be pixel hunting and clicking on everything in the environment to find the key item needed to progress, but it is a genre norm in many ways, so if you know, you know. Apparently, I did not know this, but the developer appears to be a Flash game legend in his own right, having made games in the series titled Daymare Town and Submachine, which I'm not familiar with but people seem to love, but on its own merit, I do think that this game will be of interest to fans of the genre. Tunche has been one of my most anticipated games for good reason, since this is a roguelite 2D beat-em-up with fantastic art and combat, but the developers have made an extensive trailer explaining some of the finer details, so I'll leave you to them.
Welcome to Tunche, a beautiful hand-drawn action roguelike game where you pick one of 5 playable characters, each with their own unique playstyle and story. First, our protagonist Rumi. Being an all-rounder, she commands powerful magic. With the help of her bird Piyu, she dishes out strong mid-range attacks and close-quarter combos. Her unique ability is a mudslide that damages foes in a wide area. Now, here's Karu, the fastest member of the team. He makes up for his short range with high-speed attacks and dodges. His ultimate ability turns him into a relentless tornado that sweeps everything in its path. Naira has the longest reach of all the explorers thanks to her sentient spear, Suni. Transforming Suni into a snake allows her to keep her enemies far, while her unique ability makes a circle of snakes around her, damaging anyone who dares to come close. Poncho, while being the slowest member, packs the strongest punch. His melee attacks are his best offensive tool, and his Tarango guitar allows him to reach pesky ranged enemies. His unique ability creates a symphony of lights dealing devastating damage. The wild card of the team is the guest character Hat Kid. Her melee attacks have short range, but her special skills like projectile beam and hookshot allow to chain some crazy combos. Her ultimate summons her iconic scooter, hitting everything in its way.
There's just something about the frustration platformer that appeals to a certain kind of person, where if you're one of them, I believe you will like That Flipping Mountain, one where you control a stickman who can jump, dive, glide, flip, and ski on a mountain, all in an attempt to make it to the top. This is more about controlling your rotation and landing on your feet. Most interestingly, using a mouse to control all of this, where holding down the left mouse button causes you to tuck your knees and spin faster, but is much less frustrating than getting over it in my opinion. It does also have a minimalist and somewhat pleasant art style to look at as you make your way to the top, but it is definitely for a certain type of person.
In case you've been living in a cave, the space race is on. They assume space is a playground for the rich and they can shut us out. They are wrong. This is our moment, the birth of a new digital future. Together we can democratize space and launch a vigilante DIY internet, one that we build, launch, and own ourselves. Let's reboot the internet once and for all!
This next entry is a very interesting title since Nick's Space Rebels has you building rockets and attempting to launch them into space, but where the twist is that you play from the perspective of a YouTuber or Star Tuber in their world, making these and trying to get views on your rocket launchers. There are meta elements like designing rockets with certain features to get more views, all against the backdrop of trying to get to space for the little guy. As such, it's one part Kerbal Space Program and one part simulating my life, which was a little bit surreal but a very unique experience that I think is worth picking up. One of the main mechanics that I absolutely love in games is cooking, where in Epic Chef, this of course is front and center. You play as a chef in training, with the goal of becoming the most epic chef in the entire continent, cooking the best meals in the world, where you do have to do everything from the ground up, including growing and harvesting your own ingredients. From the overall look and vibe, it does remind me of my time at Porsche, but with a different theme and focus, but does have the familiar villagers to help and befriend, a home base or villa to upgrade and so much more, making it a cannot miss if you love life sim titles like me. One game which I'm very high on myself is Lens Island, a farming, crafting and building game but with quite an extensive combat system. You know the drill, you're left to your own devices to chop trees, build shelter, and to find a way to sustain yourself, where it takes place on an island where you're able to dictate what you want to do. However, There is a whole town and village filled with NPC characters and shops, so it's definitely not cast away. But where it gets interesting is that there is a darkness beneath the island, with ancient ruins and shadowy monsters lurking in the depths. I think I covered the Kickstarter campaign back in 2020, where most impressively, this comes to us from a team of just 2 developers, where they expect early access to last 24 months with a whole bunch of new features to come. It is already impressive in early access and looks to only be getting better, making this one to watch. Our third farming or life sim adjacent title in a row is Grow Song of the Evertree. Of note, since it comes to us from developer Prideful Sloth, whose previous game was the non-violent life sim entry Yonder the Cloud Catcher Chronicles from 2017. In a very similar vein, this has no combat, where you're on a quest to bring the Evertree back to life and to change the world for the better. It's a sandbox crafting title where you're exploring and getting materials to build and upgrade with the expected fishing, bug catching, crafting and gardening systems. The non-violent aspect, in addition to the cartoony visuals, does make it one of the coziest experiences of the year, perfect for chilling out to. A title that I covered in surprise releases was the 1.0 release of Factory Town, an automation-focused city builder that has been polished up quite nicely throughout early access. Of course, this is Factorial-like in many ways, where you're building conveyor belts, moving resources and combining them in order to get what you need to unlock and to research more stuff. I love the low poly look of this game, where you're also able to see the villagers milling about. Critically, there are no aliens or zombies that will attack you, nor are there starvation mechanics to worry about, so if you do get stressed out by those systems, I would certainly recommend that you give this game a look. As a fan of Metroidvanias, of course I have to give a very special mention to Tunche, an underwater title that is pretty good, being the definition of a hidden gem since not many people seem to know about this game. This, again, is slightly due to its release date, which was near awards season and the end of the year, which may have caused others to overlook this, but if you love the genre like me, this is a must play. You're exploring a great underwater city that has now become infested with mutated sea creatures, but luckily, you're armed with a javelin fish as a buddy and your main weapon as you make your way through. Of course, being underwater, this controls very differently from a traditional 2D platformer, being more like Aquaria in many ways, with some fantastic mechanical enemy designs and a nice variety of upgrades, so again, horrendously underrated, taking the #1 spot. For more Metroidvania games, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.